Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we do another deep dive into Shudder. And let's get to the list. Infested is a 2023 French creature feature horror movie. Directed by Sebastian Vanessek, it stars Theo Christine, Jerome Neal, and Sophia Lesifer. Residents of a rundown French apartment building battle against an army of deadly, rapidly reproducing spiders.
Théo, tu te caches, Théo. Tu te fous de ma gueule.
So this year we've had two different spider creature feature horror movies, and they both kind of took it in a little bit of different ways. First we had Sting, which I did a full review on, and it's an Australian horror movie, and I had a good time with it. It's fun, but that one is more fun and lighthearted. It is creepy. It does have a lot of spider creepy grossness, but it isn't necessarily what I would say is scary. This one takes it much more serious and really comes at you trying to give you the willies, trying to just really make your skin crawl. And as crazy as it feels to say, I watch a lot of movies. It's rare that movies get to me in one way or another, but this one kind of did. I just felt really uncomfortable, and it's just been a long time since a creature feature made me feel that way. The set design and creative team behind this should be really proud of themselves. The way this movie is shot, everything about how it's put together, it just feels really creative and original and unique, because it is a pretty simple story. It's not really doing anything that we haven't necessarily seen before one way or another, but the creativity here, the way it looks, the art design, that's to me what made this movie shine. Also, the sound design is really well done. You could just feel the spiders around you. It's really impressive. I think this movie is badass, and one that I highly recommend. The Cleansing Hour is a 2019 supernatural horror movie. Directed by Damien Levesque, it stars Kyle Gallner, Ryan Guzman, and Alex Angelis. The story is about two entrepreneurs who stage elaborate fake exorcisms until one of their girlfriends becomes possessed by a demon.
And cut. Nice job, everybody. Good job.
This is a very entertaining movie. I've talked about it before on the channel. It's one that flies under the radar like so many Shudder releases. They just don't get any publicity or advertising or really anything other than word of mouth. But those that know, this is a great time. And with all the buzz, and rightfully so, of Late Night with the Devil, I couldn't help myself but think of this movie because it has kind of some of the same bones, the same feel and vibe as this does. And this is surprising. It goes for it a lot more than I expected. It has some great visuals and special effects to it as well. But keep in mind, this is a lower budget indie movie on Shudder, so it's not anything that's going to necessarily blow your doors off. But I think as long as you go in with the right expectations and just look to be entertained, you could have a great time with it.
What happens when it takes on a life of its own?
Stopmotion is a 2023 British live-action animated horror movie. Co-written and directed by Robert Morgan, it stars Aisling Francosi, Tom York, and Carolyn Springall. A stop-motion animator struggles to control her demons after the loss of her overbearing mother.
What do you think?
It's a bit boring.
It's not finished. I mean, it's not boring.
Make a new one.
A new one?
Yeah. I know a better story. You want to hear it?
I was able to check this out a few months ago when it was released into theaters, and I think it's a brilliant, brilliant movie. It really got under my skin and creeped me out as much as anything I've seen in quite a while. And it's really surprised me how lackluster the reviews of it have been, because people just were not as sold on it as me. I don't know exactly why that is. I know that it's a very artsy movie. There's a lot of creativity involved. It feels not necessarily like an art house movie, but it's close to that. And I know that style of horror movie is just not for everyone. It is a little bit of a slow burn as well, and those are generally some ingredients that the wide populace of people are just not quite into. But I personally think it's so well done, and Aislinn Francosi I thought was just fantastic in this. Very layered emotions, very believable. But to me, where this movie really shines is the special effects and the stop motion. It is incredible. It is just gooey and creepy and gross and gory. It just feels like it sticks to you, and it's dirty and grimy, and I just thought it was amazing. It in so many ways feels like those old original Tool videos back in the day. Like, this is basically taking those and making a full-on movie about it. And I thought it was just horrifying. I thought it was so creepy. There's so many things about this that just got under my skin and made me feel just creeped out. The whole movie just feels like that gross goop that's underneath your fridge. That's sticky, it's a little wet, there's some hair and things you can't quite identify. It just makes you feel gross. You just don't want to look under there. That's what this felt like to me. So if you've yet to see this one, I think it's an absolute must-see right now on Shudder.
See you in hell.
Satanic Hispanics is a 2022 anthology horror movie directed by Mike Mendez, Damian Rugna, and others. It stars Efren Ramirez, Jonah Ray, and Greg Grunberg. When police break into a house in El Paso, they find it filled with dead bodies and a lone survivor known as the Traveler. So he is taken to the police station for questioning.
Why don't you fill me in?
27 dead bodies, all shot in the head. And only one survivor.
Most commonly be a hero.
What does that mean?
The Traveler.
Like all anthologies, some parts of this movie are better than others, but I do think the wraparound is one of the better ones I have seen, especially since probably VHS, because it all makes sense and all the different sections and pieces of this, they go together in a really cohesive, fun way. But what really, to me, makes this worth seeing is the second part, directed and written by Damian Rugna. He's the guy that brought us last year's When Evil Lurks, as well as Terrified from a few years back. And to me, he is one of the horror filmmakers I'm the most excited about. And his section in this is badass. It is what you would expect from him. It is terrifying, it is dark, it's twisted, it has a really brutal, creepy, uncomfortable look to it. And just so you know exactly which section I'm talking about, it's the one with the professional Rubik's Cube player on it. It just continues to blow me away, the unique, creative ideas and concepts that Damian Rugna comes up with. I honestly would have loved to have seen an entire full-length movie with the concept that is done in this. It's that unique and creative. But the rest of this is really good as well. I really enjoyed the wraparound part, like I was talking about. Efren Ramirez does a great job in that section. And then later on in it, Jonah Ray is just amazing. Like towards the end, it's one of the last sections. This movie is just a lot of fun. There's some campy, silly parts. There's some darker, twisted parts. It just has a lot of different things. Some really, really well done visuals and creative concepts throughout this. It's well shot, well directed. It's just a cool movie. And especially if you're someone like me that enjoys anthologies, I think you'll definitely enjoy this one.
Your story is just beginning.
The Mortuary Collection is a 2019 anthology horror movie. Written and directed by Ryan Spindell, it stars Clancy Brown, Caitlin Custer, and Kristen Kilmer. Desperate for work, a young drifter applies for a job at a local mortuary. There she meets an eccentric mortician with more than a few skeletons in his closet.
Every corpse tells a story. It is our task to listen.
So these are all stories about how people died.
So I thought it would be fun to do a double feature with 2 anthology horror movies this week, because these are both 2 of the better ones we've seen, especially in recent memory. This is one of the better setups for an anthology where it actually makes sense, because you have this old mortician basically telling all these stories to this young apprentice about how all these people died. And it goes in some wild directions, and it reminded me in a lot of ways of a Tales from the Crypt kind of thing. But because it's written and directed by the same guy, all the sections and everything really feels very cohesive. They all feel like they go together. It isn't really a tonal shift from one to the next like you'll see in some other anthologies. So even though this is separate stories, it feels much more just like one movie. And Clancy Brown is just incredible in this. I love him in everything I see him in, but he is just perfectly cast here and absolutely sells this role. But this is a fun, entertaining, creative movie that's definitely worth checking out. Baskin is a 2015 Turkish surrealist horror movie. Directed by Can Evernal, it stars Mehmet Karaglu and Ergin Koyuku. The plot centers around 5 police officers who have inadvertently wandered into hell. Man, this movie is dark and gritty and uncomfortable and so disturbing. The whole thing just feels gritty and filthy and just makes you want to take a shower. And it goes into pretty wild directions with some really savage, uncomfortable imagery. It's really creative too, the way that it's shot, the whole design of it, the different way things look. It's not like anything we've really seen before. And I know some of that is anytime you see a foreign movie, there's a level of unfamiliarity to it. So things look more creative and interesting because it's not what you're used to seeing. But I think beyond that, there is some real creativity here. There is some real original ideas. But if you're looking for nightmares and something to make you feel just dirty and uncomfortable, this is a great pick. Vicious Fun is a 2020 Canadian comedy horror movie. Directed by Cody Callahan, it stars Evan Marsh, Ari Millen, and Julian Richings. A horror critic finds himself in a sticky situation when he stumbles into a self-help group for serial killers.
Need a ride?
As far as I can.
Hop in.
Just like it says in the title, this movie is fun. It really is. It's just a blast. It's definitely not one that you're gonna take serious. You just gotta kind of lean into it and enjoy this silliness because it goes for it. It definitely gets campy and goofy at times, but it also has a great look. I love the color design, the wardrobe, the set design. It's very colorful, flashy, and wild. But there's a lot of surprises throughout this too. The different directions that it takes, the different characters in it. For one, Julian Richings is fantastic in this, and you could really tell he's having a blast with this role. But like I said, it's not anything to take serious. It's just a fun one, and one to definitely add to your list.
What would you want?
The Apology is a 2022 drama horror movie. Written and directed by Alison Locke, it stars Anna Gunn, Linus Roche, and Janine Garofalo. 20 years after the disappearance of her daughter, A recovering alcoholic is preparing to host her family's Christmas celebration when her estranged ex-brother-in-law arrives unannounced, bearing nostalgic gifts and a heavy secret.
After all this time, what do you need to help you feel whole again?
I could never feel whole again.
This is a dark one. It's gritty and dramatic. It's very uncomfortable at times and full of dread and anxiety. And it is very much a drama, but don't get it wrong, it is still a twisted horror movie. There are some absolutely awful, horrific concepts in this and ideas. And the foreboding dread is what really pushes it into that horror realm for me. But the performances from this cast are what make this movie really special. They just feel so believable and authentic, it makes this movie absolutely haunting. But if you're a fan of slow burn, dramatic, dialogue-driven movies, this is definitely one you should check out.
What big teeth you have? No!
The Company of Wolves is a 1984 British fantasy horror movie. Directed by Neil Jordan, it stars Angela Lansbury, David Warner, and Sarah Patterson. A teenage girl in a country manor falls asleep while reading a magazine and has a disturbing dream involving wolves prowling in the woods outside her window. This is one that is definitely more fantasy than it is horror, but what makes it a horror movie to me is the visuals, the special effects. It goes for it. Some of the transformation kind of elements and gory things in this are as good as you're gonna see in any horror movie, especially from back in this era. But it's also a beautiful movie. It is fantastical and magical, but it also gets creepy and uncomfortable. And I grew up with Murder, She Wrote. So when I see Angela Lansbury in this as a young woman, it just makes me happy. I can't explain it in any other way. I just think she's like that grandma I never really had. But if you like it magical and mystical, as well as creepy and moody, atmospheric, then this one I think you'll have a great time with. So if you've never seen this, definitely add this one to your list.
What is your name?
Fried Berry is a 2020 South African black comedy horror movie. Written and directed by Ryan Kruger, it stars Gary Green, Bianca Hardestein, and Sean Cameron Michael. Barry is a drug-idled, abusive bastard who, after another bender, is abducted by aliens, causing him to take a back seat as an alien visitor takes control of his body. This movie is wild. In some ways, it feels like an acid trip. It's really weird, strange, uncomfortable at times, awkward sci-fi horror. It's one of those that's just hard to even express. It's just, you can't explain exactly what this movie is. But I think it's a lot of fun. I found it to be very funny in a black comedy kind of way. It's just this wild journey that's hard to follow at times. It goes off the rails in so many different ways, so many different times, but I think it's really creative, original, unique, and definitely an experience. And I think for the right audience, this is a great choice. So do yourself a favor this weekend, pick one of the movies off of this list, grab your popcorn and your candy, and enjoy! I want to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to the Ghost Pirate crew, to you guys over on Patreon, and to the channel members over here. You guys mean so much to me. And if you would like to help support this channel through Patreon, there's a link down in the description. Or you can become a channel member and help support the channel that way by hitting that button right down there that says join. And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, guys, horror can be fun. And if you enjoyed this, click right here to watch me talk about 10 more movies that I think you'll enjoy. And I'll see you guys next time.